So tradition is something that is steeped in an idea, a feeling, a purpose. My mom looked out for people and they looked out for her. You had this community based around love, nurturing, not only about making money, it was about people caring for each other. She was diligent. She practiced the things that she taught us. If you believe in yourself and you have integrity and you have the drive and you're willing to work hard, sky's the limit.
So you started with this place, and you lived upstairs, you and your wife, and you fried an onion at the end of the day, and you saved a nickel.
Right, a lot of toast. A lot of toaster and a bed. That's the old joke, toaster and a bed. And that's kind of true.
And the food didn't suck, and word got out. And then you opened up the cafe.
Il Ritrovo.
Il Ritrovo.
Il Ritrovo, yep.
Okay, and then the cafe.
Right.
And then Duke of Devon.
Right.
Now you got this food truck.
Yep.
What would you have done different across all these years? What would you change?
The one regret is that I did not live in Italy for a long, extended period before opening. I just didn't know any better. I was anxious to go on with my life. I was 24 years old. I was just out of college, a year and a half, 2 years out of college, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to be productive. I wanted to make something, which is why I do it now in the way that I can.
Yeah.
You know, I can go now I go 3 weeks every June.
Is it harder
Eventually
now?
it'll be a month. Sure.
As we get older.
You lose a little of that risk, willingness to risk a lot, I guess, at that point. But I'm trying not to do that. I remember listening to Richard Branson being interviewed a while back, and him just saying, I don't stop. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. I want to keep going. I want my staff to be here for 25 years, 30 years. And if I stop and I shut down and I just go into autopilot mode, why should they stay?
So it's curious to me, you guys started AP a little over a year ago, your aunt and nephew, or nephew and aunt, and you have this great wine erudition, but you're not a wine-centric, driven, you guys have never hung your hat on that as a restaurant. If anything, you downplay it so it's approachable to everybody, right?
You know, that was, the wine thing was just something that I was super passionate about. And it's fun to get excited about it, but it's also, it doesn't need to be something that's pretentious. All-purpose, naming it all-purpose. We wanted to be pretty flexible with what we could do here. It just so happens that the one thing that I could bring to the table, I mean, service and beverage program and doing front of house stuff is kind of my forte, but the one thing that I knew that I excelled in or that was excited about, passionate about, was wine. But not everybody likes to drink wine, and it's sometimes can come off to be pretentious, and especially when people don't feel comfortable reading a list. So we don't try and make it seem like, that is what is really important here. And the servers get to wear whatever they want because we want them to be comfortable.
Right.
And we want, we just want it to be a very much more relaxed experience.
But it is important too, because now that I'm coming from the business aspect and I see many restaurants opening up. So now you have to set yourself apart.
Right.
Because otherwise everything just ends up coming together. And so every restaurant has something to offer. And for me, I was, at first, I have to admit, I wasn't sure because I didn't know if it would come off that way. But he knew so much, it would have been silly not to put that forward.
Yeah.
And he knew a lot, and I'm so glad we did it. I wasn't sure about it, and I'm so glad that he pushed that.
Is this financially viable? Because you go to other coffee
we'll
places.
find out.
You go to other coffee places, there is the big menu, there's 60, 70 different drinks, or I'm exaggerating, it's probably 25 or 30. They have milk, they've got syrup, they've got, you know what I mean? But is this little rarefied Tiffany experience, right? Where your Salvadorian knows the farmer and roasts it and then puts it in a bag and air flights it up here? Is this viable, or is this just a fantasy?
It's lasted a year and 2 months.
Is it hard, the bar business? I mean, you own, I know it's hard, but is it a lot harder than people think? You own an icon that people will come to, people that don't normally go out to get a drink
Right.
of a spirit sort will come to Bryant's at least once a year.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Which is wonderful.
Yeah. But is it a lot harder than people think?
It's a hard job. It is a hard job. You're always on call, like you are with a lot of jobs, but usually when you called, it's 3 or 4 in the morning. It's a difficult job. There's always something. It's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of employee issues, but it's also the most enjoyable job. It's a wonderful job. It's rewarding in all aspects, and I love every day, but it does get challenging. It's exhausting sometimes. I think maybe that's...
Yeah. Well, and you're keeping a treasure safe for all of us, right? I mean...
So my days are a little different maybe than the average bar owner.
So you're an anomaly within the Green Bay drinking scheme and to a certain extent the Fox Valley drinking scheme, right? Just places like Rye and Appleton pour a great cocktail. I'm sure there's other places that do really good cocktails. And they could be craft or not, that sort of thing. But how do you share this story without turning people off?
Again, I think it's kind of in terms of the story of Libertine or story of craft cocktail.
Story of Libertine.
Story of Libertine. Well, at 23, I had a newborn, so life slows down a little bit, and I had managed and bartended all around. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 13, in restaurants since I was 13. So it was time for a little bit of a change, and I'd wanted my own bar since I could remember, and at 22, 23, I really started to get into craft beer and started to dive into cocktails and just started reading as much as I possibly could and asking anyone who knew anything about cocktails questions, and just went from there. And when we opened the place, it was just like, this is what we're gonna do. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. This is Green Bay, and we were the first of our kind, so you really had to dip people's toes into the pool. So we started off with 6 domestics, but I said we'll never have a domestic on our draft lines. It's going to change all the time. We're going to have a bunch of craft beer, and we're going to do this craft cocktail thing that I was getting into at that point. We're going to juice everything fresh, and we'll start small, and we did, and it's grown into this now.
So when I reached out to you to do this interview, you said something that no chef has ever said in the 100+ episodes we've done.
Uh-oh.
And it was, I'm really humble. I just want to be clear. I don't have this great New York, Chicago, Paris, European lineage. I'm a guy that cooks. You didn't say that, but you said everything else. But you essentially said, I'm just a cook. I work really hard, but I just want to be clear that this is what you're going to get when you come.
Right.
In over 100+ interviews, no one has ever said that to me before we brought the cameras.
Okay.
I mean, I think like that sums you up.
Yeah, I mean, I want to clear up, like, I didn't start Robinia, so I'm not going to take credit for, like, the concept.
Right.
I've always been humble. Like, I don't, like, if all I really want is, like, my peers, to, like, respect me and, kind of like, hey, I'll come do dinner with you, and I'm not really into the the limelight. I want to maybe, like, represent an idea that, like, you can be a chef and other people look at you as, like, put you on, like, a higher pedestal. And I look as, like, if you think you're number one, act like you're number two, still trying to get there, because I think that, like, kind of, like, you constantly have to move forward. And I learned that lesson when I was at Magnus, and I got some, like, James Beard recognition for, like, semifinalists, and I felt like I became complacent, and I let victory defeat me. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't change anything dramatically to get this, so I don't have to change anymore.
Right.
So now it's like, I always act like I'm down here trying to get there.
Party fillets. One is rare.
Some filet, one rare.
One chicken. Party style. 7 party salmon. 2 mushroom risotto entrees. CDR, please.
Heard that.